A bank vault door closes with a heavy metallic click. Inside a regional bank in Ohio, an auditor named Naomi Reyes sits alone at 11 p.m., staring at a spreadsheet that shouldn't exist. 40 account numbers, the same email domain, the same handwriting on the original signature cards, all opened by one man, all under his direct supervision for the last 11 years. She whispers to herself, "This isn't a mistake. This is architecture." She has no idea she's about to uncover the most patient theft in the bank's history. Meet Daniel Cross, 52 years old, branch manager of Ridgeline National Bank's downtown location for the past 13 years. He is, by every external measure, the model employee. He remembers customers' kids' names. He stays late to help elderly clients set up online banking. He's been Employee of the Year 4 times. His branch has the highest customer satisfaction rating in the entire regional network. Corporate loves him. Customers trust him completely. That trust is the entire point. Daniel didn't start as a thief. He started as a man who noticed something most people never think about. Nobody audits the people they trust the most. Compliance systems are built to catch outsiders, hackers, scammers, unfamiliar transactions. They are not built to catch the smiling manager who has spent a decade becoming invisible through reliability. 13 years ago, when Daniel first took over the branch, dormant and inactive accounts were rarely manually reviewed. Old customer files, deceased account holders, unclaimed business accounts, all sitting quietly in a database nobody looked at twice. Daniel looked. Not all at once, not carelessly. He watched. He learned the bank's blind spots the way a surgeon learns anatomy. Patiently, precisely, without ever rushing the process. Naomi Reyes, the auditor now staring at his numbers, transferred to Ridgeline only 4 months ago. She wasn't hired to investigate fraud. She was hired to standardize outdated record-keeping ahead of a system migration, a routine, unglamorous corporate cleanup job. She almost didn't open the dormant accounts folder at all. But something about the file names felt too clean, too consistent, like someone had organized chaos to look like order. She keeps reading. And somewhere in that spreadsheet, a decade of Daniel Cross's careful invisibility is about to end. Naomi doesn't report anything yet, not because she's afraid, because she isn't sure what she's looking at. She cross-references the 40 accounts against the bank's ownership records. Most list elderly customers, several of whom she quickly confirms are deceased. A few list small local businesses that closed years ago. 2 accounts belong to a family that moved out of state in 2016. None of them have logged in. None of them have called. None of them know these accounts are still active. But they are active. Small transfers, some as low as $40, others closer to $900, moving quietly between the dormant accounts on a rotating schedule. Never enough to trigger a large transaction flag. Never from the same account twice in a row. Never on the same day of the week. It isn't random. It's rhythm. Naomi pulls up the audit trail for account approvals. Every single one of the 40 accounts carries the same internal authorization code. Daniel Cross's employee ID. She sits back in her chair. 13 years of Employee of the Year plaques flash through her mind. The idea feels absurd, paranoid even. She tells herself there's probably an explanation. Branch managers sometimes co-sign old accounts during system transitions. Maybe this is administrative residue from an old merger. She almost lets it go. Then,
she notices something that changes everything. 3 of the customers share the same forwarding address for their paper statements, a UPS store 4 blocks from the branch. Naomi doesn't go to her supervisor yet. She's seen what happens to junior employees who accuse popular managers without airtight proof. Careers end quietly. Quietly enough that nobody has to admit why. So she builds her case the way Daniel built his scheme, slowly and without leaving fingerprints. She requests archive security footage from the UPS store under the pretense of a records verification project. She cross-checks Daniel's work schedule against the mail pickup timestamps. Every single pickup happened on Daniel's day off. She pulls loan officer notes from 11 years ago and finds something stranger, a compliance flag from a previous auditor dated 9 years back, questioning irregular activity in 2 dormant accounts. The flag was closed within 48 hours. Reason listed? Reviewed by branch manager. No discrepancy found. Reviewed by the same person who created the accounts. The system hadn't failed to catch him. It had asked him to check his own work and trusted the answer. Naomi starts mapping the money's final destination. It doesn't go to Daniel's personal accounts. That would be too obvious, too traceable. Instead, it funnels into a small LLC registered under his brother-in-law's name, a consulting business with no employees, no clients, and no online presence beyond a single-page website that hasn't been updated since 2019. Over a decade, the withdrawals stack quietly into a total that makes Naomi's stomach turn. $3.4 million. Not stolen in one dramatic heist, but harvested patiently, $2,000 or $3,000 at a time from people who would never notice because they were never really looking. That night, Naomi realizes something that unsettles her more than the number itself. If Daniel had taken slightly less, spread it slightly wider, waited just a little longer between transfers, she never would have found him at all. Naomi finally takes her findings to the district compliance director, a woman named Patricia Ahn, who has spent 20 years cleaning up other people's blind spots. Patricia doesn't react the way Naomi expects. No shock, no disbelief, just a long silence, and then, how far back does it go? 11 years, maybe longer. Patricia opens a locked drawer and pulls out a thin folder. Inside is the compliance flag from 9 years ago, the one Naomi already found. But there's something Naomi didn't see. A handwritten note in the margin, initialed by a regional director who retired shortly after. Handle quietly. Don't want another headline year. The bank had been publicly embarrassed by an unrelated scandal at a different branch that same year. Leadership didn't want a second story, so the flag was buried, not by Daniel, but by people protecting the institution's image. Daniel didn't just exploit a gap in the system. He exploited a moment when the system chose not to look. Federal investigators are brought in quietly, without alerting Daniel. They spend 6 weeks building a parallel case, subpoenaing the LLC's bank records, tracing wire transfers through 3 different financial institutions. When they finally move, they do it on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. 2 federal agents walk into the branch. Daniel is mid-conversation with an elderly client, helping her set up a recurring transfer to her grandson's college fund. He finishes the transaction first, completely calm. Then he asks the client to have a good day. Only then does he stand up and follow the agents out. Employees who worked with him for over a decade described the same reaction. Stunned silence, followed by a slow, uncomfortable realization. He never once seemed like someone capable of this. That, investigators later note, was exactly the point. During Daniel's trial, Prosecutors expect him to claim ignorance, blame accomplices, or express remorse. He does neither. Instead, in his only public statement, he says something that unsettles the courtroom more than a confession would. "I didn't take from people. I took from accounts nobody was taking care of. If the bank had looked even once, I would have stopped." It sounds like a rationalization. Prosecutors treat it as one. But when investigators finish the full audit, they discover something that recontextualizes the entire case. Of the 40 dummy accounts, 31 were completely fabricated, built from stolen identity fragments and expired records. But 9 were different. 9 belonged to real, still living customers who had unknowingly been double-charged small maintenance fees for over a decade. Fees the bank was not legally entitled to collect due to a contract loophole from an old account migration. Daniel had been quietly rerouting a portion of those improperly collected fees back to a separate holding account, not returning them to customers, but preventing the bank from fully absorbing money it was never owed. It wasn't restitution. He still stole millions for himself. But buried inside his decade of theft was a strange, uncomfortable thread. The bank's own systems had been quietly overcharging people long before Daniel ever built a single fake account, and no one at any level had noticed until a fraud investigation forced them to look. The final shot lingers on Naomi, now promoted to senior compliance investigator, staring at a new stack of dormant accounts on her desk. She doesn't open the file right away. She just stares at it, remembering what taught her the real lesson of this case. The most dangerous person in any institution isn't the one who breaks the rules. It's the one everyone trusts enough to stop checking.